Hello, welcome to another Sunday podcast. Isn't life wonderful? Where are the weeks going? There goes a car. It shouldn't be noisy. Why is there a car? Is it about, what is it, 5:30 in the morning? Where's he going? Okay, 15 degrees centigrade, 59 Fahrenheit, 94% humidity. I don't know why it's 94%. We've had all this before, haven't we? Here we go. 94%. Well, why isn't everything wet? Why isn't my hair wet? Why isn't it pouring with rain? 1021 millibars on the barometer, and the flag is doing nothing. Just hanging there, doing nothing at all. Anyway, how are you? Hope you're well. Raise rants at protonmail.com if you want to have a say about anything or moan about anything. Oh, we haven't had any shout-outs recently, have we? There's Terry from Italy who wants a shout-out. Hello, Terry. Big shout-out to you. That's not an Italian name, is it, Terry? Are you Italian? I don't know. Erica. We've had Erica before, haven't we, from Finland? Haven't you messaged before? Anyway, Erica from Finland, big shout out to you. No one from Iceland. What about these other countries? Anyone in Iceland listening? Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Norway, Kazakhstan, or wherever. Anyone listening there? Georgia? Obviously not. Although we do have listeners on the Isle of Wight, my favourite island in the whole world. Okay, let's move on. Sex, drugs and rock and roll. That was it, the 60s. Music, drugs, sex, all that sort of stuff. Fashion, miniskirts. In a lot of people's minds, that epitomised the 1960s. Sex, drugs and rock and roll. You've probably heard the expression, free love, make love, not war. Possibly in London, that's where it was at, as we used to say. You dig? I never said dig. I didn't do all that stuff. Hey, man, and all this business. Make love, not war. I didn't do all that. I was a hippie, but I didn't go around saying dig and hey, man and stuff like that. Maybe in London some people did, I don't know. Down here on the coast, the 60s, yes, there was sex, there was drugs, there was rock and roll. Of course there was. There is everywhere. There is now. That's nothing new. It's just that back then it was a new thing. During the 50s, after the war, people were more restrained. Is that the word, restrained? I don't know. Women didn't go around in miniskirts showing things that they shouldn't show. Whereas in the 60s, let it all hang out. That was another expression, wasn't it? Kids were becoming teenagers. They were growing up into the 60s. There was the music, the Beatles, the Stones, loads of good music. Teenage boys were noticing girls. Girls were noticing boys. Stuff was happening. Instead of milk bars and coffee bars, nightclubs appeared. Alcohol was on the scene. Alcohol's always been there, obviously, for thousands of years. But in the 50s, it was milk bars and coffee bars, wasn't it? In the 60s, it was alcohol. So people were going to nightclubs, they were going to pubs, rather than all standing around a jukebox drinking milk or coffee. I sort of remember that. That's way before my time. But there was a coffee bar, or whatever they called it, underground in my hometown. It was called the Viking. Does anyone remember the Viking? Was it called a coffee bar or milk bar? Down there, I went there down there after the pubs had closed one evening, and it was okay. There's a jukebox playing out. It was very 50s. The people were older than me, so they were kind of remnants of the 1950s, if you like. They were just fading out, and there were the girls in sort of 1950s clothes, the boys, not teddy boys, it was way after that. They were 1950s type people. The jukebox was playing Buddy Holly, that sort of thing, 1950s stuff. It was all right in there, but I went in there with a couple of mates and we had a cup of coffee and we're looking at each other. Shouldn't we be having beer? You know, what are we doing drinking coffee? We should be having a beer. Although we'd spent the whole evening in the pub, we didn't really want to go into a milk bar or coffee bar. We just went to have a look to see what it was like. I went 2 or 3 times out of interest because it was in the middle of the town. It was a kind of underground. Do you remember the Beatles, where they started? Was it the tavern or the cavern underground place? You see old black and white film of the Beatles before they were famous in I think it was the cavern, wasn't it? I don't know, somewhere in Liverpool. Well, this coffee place was like that. You go down the steps underground and it's kind of an archway, like a tunnel. A fantastic place. In fact, it must be still there because the buildings above it are still there. So they wouldn't have got rid of it. They can't. If they take that away, the buildings would fall down. Unless they pumped it full of concrete, which I doubt. I'll have to have a look. Next time I'm downtown, maybe once in the next 10 years I might pop down there. If I do, I shall make a note of that and let you know. I've just looked it up on the internet. There's only one mention of it from the old days. The Viking Coffee Lounge, run by Turkish people. That rings a bell vaguely. This is the 60s. It's a long time ago, isn't it? I can't remember. Anyway, there we are. I thought there might be some more information about it online, but seemingly not. Back to sex, drugs and rock and roll. I was a hippie, as I said. I had the hair, the long hair, the beard, the Afghan type coat, but not many of us did. Not many of my friends were like that. I think down here on the coast we were a little bit removed. Well, we were way removed from the London scene. What was going down in London, where it's at, dig. Down here, it was more, the hippie thing was more kipper ties and big collars, jackets with big lapels. I only went for the scruffy hippie look, the coat, the hair, the full beard, because I was a natural scruff anyway. I still am. I'm scruffy. Even when I dress up and people brush up well, they say, don't they? Oh, he brushes up quite well. I don't seem to brush up well. I don't know. I look a mess, which suits me because I am a mess. What's that song? I forget now. Not Paloma Faith, where the words are, according to you. That's it. I forget who did it. According to you, I'm a mess in a dress. I like that song. I'll remember who did it in a minute. Some guitarist lady, a guitarist young woman. Can't remember who it was. So yes, the 60s, they were great. There was the pirate radio, there was the music, there was the nightclubs, there was everything. And the girls, they look great. You see on programmes, you watch Heartbeat. You watch that programme, the Heartbeat repeats from the old days. There's, what's her name behind the bar? She's got the white PVC boots, the miniskirt, all the 60s type gear. That's what the girls were like. Girls were feminine back then. I'm not saying they're not now. Well, I am. So they were feminine. But the thing is, so were a lot of the boys. I mean, my hair, I had long hair. Honestly, I looked like a girl. In fact, I remember our next door neighbour's kids saying to their mum, we were chatting, I was chatting to their mum, and one of them said, "Here, Mummy, he looks like a girl." That was back in that must have been the 60s, 70s. Yeah, I can't remember. Do you remember the groups, the bands, like the Pretty Things and all that lot? The Pretty Things, I mean, that sums it up, doesn't it? Herman's Hermits. A lot of them look pretty. They look like girls. Oh, I don't know. But they were great days. I did go to Carnaby Street in London. Not regularly, but every now and then I pop up there and have a look round the shops, perhaps buy one or two bits and pieces. We did tie-dye T-shirts in the workshop, in the radio and TV workshop. We had this kettle, this old kettle. And what you do, you fill it with water, put your dye in it, okay? That's it, you warm up the water in the kettle. You take your T-shirt off in the workshop, all right? A white T-shirt. And you tie stones in it with bits of string, get some stones out of the garden or wherever. And then you dip the stone bit, all screwed up with a bit of string round it, into the dye. I don't know whether we put it in the kettle to warm the water up or whether it had to be cold, I can't remember. And then you let that dry, and when you open the T-shirt out, it's like a splat. Say it's blue dye, you've got a splat of blue, like an exploding star. And another thing I did, I had a beautiful pair of black slip-on shoes, and I got some purple shoe dye, and I spent ages in the workshop, supposed to be repairing televisions. Oh, we'll fix the tellies later. I'm doing my shoes and my T-shirt. And I put the purple dye on these shoes, and it was fantastic. People would say, "Oh, where you get those purple shoes?" "Oh, well, where'd you get those? You been to Carnaby Street?" No, I did it myself. The trouble was, after about a week, the dye all cracked, so they looked dreadful. But I still wore them because they were comfortable. I just remembered the young lady that sang According to You, Orianthe. Look it up, Orianthe. Don't ask me how to spell it. probably ORIAN something or other. The 60s, people had money. I don't remember any of my friends or colleagues or work people or whatever being out of work. Well, I wouldn't remember my work people being out of work, would I? Because I was at work with them. But you know what I mean? Seriously, people weren't out of work. Everyone I knew had a job. It didn't matter what it was. Someone worked in a shop. Someone was a van driver or whatever they did. I was in the radio and TV workshop. We had enough money. I rented a bedsit when I was, 16, 17. I rented a bedsit. How can I afford that, you're thinking, on my sort of apprentice wage? It wasn't expensive. I think it was £1. It was 30 bob a week, my first bedsit. £1, 10 shillings a week, which is £1.50 in today's money. You can't do that now, a bedsit now. I don't know, what are you talking about, £100 a week? Probably for a bedsit. I've no idea. But it certainly won't be £1.50. People were happy. People could afford a motorbike or a scooter, a Lambretta or a Vespa. They could afford an old car, second-hand banger, an old car, get that on the road. People could afford to go out. I'm talking about teenagers, basically, youngsters. Youngsters these days, they can't leave home because of the money. They can't rent a place, you can't buy a place. People were buying houses. When did we get our first house? I was 24, was I? Or 23, I don't know. 23, 24. Got a house, got a mortgage. You can't do that now. There are people at home living with their parents in their 20s, even into their 30s, because they can't afford to leave home. So people were happier. I'm not going to go on about, when I was a boy, I used to walk to school in the snow. I had to walk 5 miles to school and back in the midwinter in the snow and the ice. People have had enough of that, and I do understand that. You hear people saying, no, I don't want to hear all about it. Yeah, when you walked to school, you walked through 10 feet of snow and you had nothing to eat and you lived in a shoebox in the middle of a cesspit. Oh, that were luxury, that were. It's boring. I know it's boring for younger people, even middle-aged people today, to keep hearing about how we didn't get a lift to school, we had to walk and we didn't do this, we had second-hand clothes and all this stuff. I know people get fed up with that, but it's true. I'm not going to go on about that, but it is true. I used to walk to school. It was, about 1.5 miles each way. And that was in the winter, in the snow. I don't know. Anyway, let's not go on about that. But people in the 60s, when I left school, people were definitely happier than they are today. The youngsters seem to be happier. I remember being in the pubs back then. People my age, teenagers in the pubs. People were laughing. People had money. People had jobs. People had their own flats, their own bedsits, things like that. Some of them were, was it a friend of mine, Dave? He bought his first house. He was, 19? 18, 19. He played the organ. He had an organ. He played in the pub. He was quite good, actually, on that organ. He used to play things like She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain When She Comes. Do you remember those awful old songs? He had this huge organ in the pub. Anyway, they paid him to do that. He was a radio and TV engineer by day. He did various other things, part-time jobs. And he bought his first house when I think he was about 18 or 19. You can't do that now. You can't buy your first house until you're whatever age. Yes, we did have the bank of mum and dad, as we call it, but only to an extent. We didn't have thousands from mum and dad like people do today. I didn't get any help from my parents to buy our first house. They didn't give me any money, which is miserable shame. What's the matter with them? That's child abuse, that is. Anyway, what I'm basically saying is what I've said already. I think people were a lot happier then. People certainly seemed a lot happier then anyway. It's now, I don't know what day it is. I never do I? Sunshine, look at that. Coming up to 1 o'clock. It's Friday. Lovely weather, quite warm, flags not doing much. Quite a nice day. But it's definitely becoming autumnal. I like that word. You can say autumnal. Can you say winter tumnal? Summer tumnal, spring tumnal? Of course you can't. It's autumnal. Out there this morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock, it was chilly. It really was chilly. So we're getting to that time of year. It's still summer, of course, but we are getting to that time of year where it's starting to cool down, darker in the mornings and the evenings. I pulled up a load of dead plants this morning. A lot of plants, they've finished now. That's it for the year. They've gone. Our runner beans are just about, well, they never did start, really. They didn't start. We've only had a handful of runner beans. I don't know what happened to them this year. Mr. Fox has become a regular visitor. Did I mention that? I put the video on, didn't I? Oh, that reminds me. Rants.info. I put the video of the trail cam on with the fox. It's only a little short video. But I've also put together a load of video clips from the Isle of Wight, Haven Street Steam Railway on the Isle of Wight, Haven Street Steam Railway. I put a load of clips together. I've been sorting out the computer, finding old photos and video clips. If you're into trains, old steam engines and old trains from hundreds of years ago, have a look at that, rants.info. It's only about 3 minutes long, I think. It's just the sound of the trains that are going along and the general sort of ambience or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called, do I? Moving on, totally different subject. Trish and I were talking to a couple of girls the other day. They're both 19 years old. They both passed their driving test. They've got nice cars, quite expensive cars. One of them was saying she was done for speeding. And we said, oh no, that's a shame. Well, what happened? Where were you? She said, well, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. She said, I was doing 48 miles an hour. And I said, well, 48 miles an hour and a 40 limit, that is quite a bit over the top, you know. No, it wasn't a 40 limit. 30 limit. What? You're doing 48 in a 30 limit and it wasn't your fault. No, it wasn't my fault because I didn't know it was 30. Right, well, ignorance is no excuse, is it? I didn't know it was 30. She said there were no signs. I said, was it like a built-up area? Oh, yeah, houses and stuff. I said, if there are no road signs in a built-up area, it's automatically 30 mile an hour limit. Oh, well, I didn't know that, so it's not my fault. Anyway, she's got points on her licence. The other girl, I was done for drink driving. I said, I suppose that wasn't your fault. She said, no, it wasn't. It wasn't my fault. She said, what happened was, that reminds me of Jethro. Remember Jethro, the comedian, tells really naughty, dirty jokes, and I think he's a singer as well. What happened was, he's from down West Country. Anyway, she said, what happened was, I'd had a couple of drinks, and then later in the evening, I had something to eat. I waited a long time. I'd only had a couple of drinks, and I was over the limit. I thought I was okay by then to drive. And I said, well, yes, I suppose fair enough, but, you know, these things happen. You shouldn't have any drinks and drive at all for hours. And I said, why did they stop you? She said, well, I drove my car off the road into a ditch. Okay, you were over the drink drive limit and you drove your car off the road. Well, it was a sharp bend. I went round the sharp bend and I was fine. I slowed down, sharp bend. I came out of the sharp bend thinking it was a straight road, and it wasn't. There was another bend going the other way. I said, oh yeah, they call that an S-bend. You've not heard of S-bends? No. I thought it was a straight road. So I came out of the bend, put my foot down, and there's another bend. And I went straight off the road into the ditch. The police came along and breathalyzed me. It wasn't my fault. Honestly, these girls, nothing they do is their fault, nothing. And the other one, she said, I hit a post. I said, I suppose the post jumped out, did it, from wherever? It just jumped out and hit your car. That wasn't your fault. Anyway, she said, no, shut up. She said, of course it didn't jump out. She said, but I didn't see the post. It wasn't clear. Oh, right, so you didn't see something in your car when you're driving along, so you hit it, and it wasn't your fault because you didn't see it. Honestly, and the mother of one of them said, nothing is her fault. It doesn't matter what happens. It was all my fault. Isn't it strange, these youngsters, their sort of attitude, their outlook on life? It's not my fault. You know, I drove my car off the road into a ditch, too fast going round a bend, over the drink drive limit, but it wasn't my fault. I was done for speeding once, way back in 1970-something. I was going down this road. I'd come off the fast main road, turned into this other road, which I thought was 40 miles an hour. There's a cop with his radar gun. Nick. You were doing 40 in a 30 limit. I said, yes, I was. I thought it was 40 here. No, 30 here. There we are, got points on my licence. It's a fair cop. I didn't go around saying to people, Well, I was done for speeding, but it wasn't my fault because I didn't know it was 30. Everything is their fault. I don't know, it just made me laugh. I wish I'd got my little recorder. I thought about this afterwards. I should have had my little recorder with me and recorded this hilarious chat they come out with. Honestly, it was absolutely hilarious. One or two things they were saying, I can't repeat on here. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I don't know, stone the crows. I know it's bad, speeding and drink driving, but just the way they came across, they're lovely, lovely girls. They really are. Just make me laugh. It's good to laugh, isn't it? People don't laugh enough these days. In the old days, going back to the 60s again, sex, drugs and rock and roll and laughter. They were great times. People were always laughing. I know we were teenagers and early 20s and all that, but older people were laughing. I remember older people in the workshop. They were always having a laugh. People in their 40s, 50s, laughing. In fact, a chap there, what was he? He was past retirement age. He was well over 65. He was always having a joke and a laugh. It just seems that people aren't so happy anymore. I don't know. Let me check my note. Where's my iPad? Here we are. I've got to check my notes. The new computer's behaving itself, which is good. That's all working well. Now, here are my notes. I've got an email here, look, telling me something or other. Right, notes, where are we? Oh, yes, did I tell you about the pirate radio station, Radio Badger? I did, didn't I? 1242 kilohertz, medium wave, AM band, 1242 kilohertz. They've got a website. I think I told you this, didn't I? Radio Badger, all one word, radiobadger.co.uk. Have a look at their website. Really strong signal here. Tuned in on my little radio. Fantastic to hear a pirate radio station in 2025. Took me back to the 60s. Moving on again to a different subject. Brian Smith, you remember Brian Smith on holiday over from America with his daughter Gladys? He was saying that people are trapped. I do understand this. You've got your 9 till 5 job every day, okay? 5 days a week. Saturdays, you clean the car. You wash and polish the car. Sunday, you mow the lawn. All the neighbours are out there. They're all mowing the lawn because it's Sunday. That's what you do. And he was saying it's all sort of regimented, isn't it? It's weird. And I do agree. I remember when I was in my, early 20s, I remember mowing the lawn in our house out the front garden. Other people were mowing their lawns. That was on a Saturday, or was it Sunday, whichever way round it was. Then on the Sunday, or the Saturday, they're all out there cleaning their cars. And I was doing the same. And I remember looking round and thinking, I'm not one of the sheep. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I didn't. I stopped washing the car. Well, I stopped washing it altogether. I just cleaned the car once every few weeks if it was really dirty. And the lawn, I made a point of mowing the lawn one evening during the week. After work, I'd get home and mow the lawn. And do you know, a couple of neighbours one weekend said to me, you mow your lawn in the week now? Yes, I do, yeah. Oh, why is that then? And you clean your car? Oh, when do you clean your car? I haven't seen you cleaning your car. Oh, no, I do it about once every few weeks now. Can't be bothered with it. And one of them actually said, oh, we've noticed you're missing on a Sunday or a Saturday, whatever. We noticed you were missing. And your car's standing there. Your lawn's not being cut. I don't know, isn't it weird? Anyway, Brian, thanks for commenting on all that. You're back off to America, aren't you, at some stage? Keep in touch. Nice to get your email. It is nice getting emails from around the world. Certainly was chilly this morning. I'm going to have to check the heating and turn that on. I do that every summer. Turn the heating on, get the radiators all red hot, make sure everything's working. I don't want to discover that there's a problem when we really do get some cold weather and turn it on for the first time. So that's another little job. I've got to seal the shed roof. That still leaks. My list of... Oh, here it is. Here's my list of jobs. Here we are. Look, the patio slabs aren't done. They've got to be straightened. The flashing, I've got to do that. Paint the bedroom ceiling. Seal the shower cubicle. Yeah, I've got the stuff for that. Utility room roof. Oh, that's covered in moss. I've got it. Oh, dear. Kitchen cupboard door. Anyway, it goes on. Kitchen cupboard doors are hanging off. I don't know. They say that when you retire, and this is true, people say, I don't know how I had time to go to work. I don't. When I stopped work, I thought, that's it. We're going to wake up in the morning, What should we do today? Tell you what, let's poodle over to Shoreham Airport. We'll have breakfast in the lovely cafe there. Look out across the airfield at the planes coming and going. We don't do that. We wake up, look at each other. Oh God, we've got so-and-so coming round, haven't we? Oh, there we got that. We've got to go and pick that up. Oh, then we've got to go to so-and-so. It goes on and on. What happens now when we wake up? I say to Trish, what's planned for today? What are we doing? When do we get a day off? Have we got a free day this week? Have we got our online calendar things? If you change one in one, it changes it in the other, and all that rubbish. I don't know. I don't understand all that. And I look in there. So we have to check the calendar. Oh, look, we've got Thursday. Thursday is free. Nothing's happening Thursday. Because then we get a phone call. What are you doing on Thursday? One of the kids. Why? What do you want to know for? I just wonder what you're doing Thursday. Well, nothing as it happens. Oh, good. Could you pick me up? And so it goes on. We have lied sometimes. What are you doing Thursday? Thursday. Oh, we're out all day. Amberley Museum, wetlands at Arundel. Oh, then we're off to Pulborough. Oh, yeah, we've got Thursday. No chance. Oh, dear. It's only a white lie, isn't it? Politicians tell white lies, don't they? They don't tell huge black lies, politicians. Stone their crows. Susan, nice to hear from you. Hope you get on well with the pears that you're going to cook, whatever you're doing with them. Susan said, could I do an interview with my son about an Englishman, as he is or was, moving to America and living there? Good idea, Susan, but as I said in my email, he's only here for a week and he's had so much rushing about that it's very difficult to fit anything, visiting friends and relations and going here and going there, doing this, doing that. But I have spoken to him about it, and what we're going to try and set up is him in America, me here obviously, and set up a sort of interview thing over the internet. He knows how to do it. I haven't got a clue, but he said, you've got your microphone, you've got your computer, your mixer and all that. He said, we can actually do it over the internet. So good idea, Susan. Yes, I will try and get that arranged with him and we'll set that up and have a chat, because that will be interesting. Being born here as he was. Now, when did him and his family move away from England? I can't remember. How old is he? I've no idea how old he is. Is it awful? I don't know. How old are you? Anyway, we'll set that up, Susan. Good idea. We were chatting the other day about various things, and I was mentioning that I'm not that keen on people. I don't like people in the main. I was saying that people talk too much. Words seem to tumble from people's mouths. Not everyone. Non-stop, blah, 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 rabbit, 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 blah, 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 blah. And you can't get a word in. They don't take a breath. You can't get a word in edgeways, as they say. I don't know why a word would be edgeways, but still, that's the saying. We were discussing that. And, some people, as he was saying, some people say what they've got to say. And other people will say what they've got to say, but there's a load of thousands of words that go with it. I've just bashed the table. Look. See? Sorry about that. Bashing the table. Don't edit stuff out anymore. Do you know I'm now home alone? Trisha and her sister and her mum, where have they gone? They've gone to the cinema. Then they're out for a meal. So I'm home alone, which is rather good because I can get this podcast going a bit. I've got a lot to do. I've got to tidy up. Well, I've been tidying up, actually. Okay, it's now, did I tell you it's Friday? I'm sure I told you it's Friday. I hope it's Friday anyway. That's what I've told you. I don't want to lie. I'm going to finish this here and I'm going to do some more tomorrow, Saturday. We've got the usual round for lunch. Half the family come round for lunch on a Saturday. So that'll be good. Always look forward to that. I'm now going to do a bit of tidying up in here. I've got myself for dinner tonight. Trish will be back about 7 o'clock, but a bit later. I like to eat earlier than that, and she's having dinner out. So I'm having homemade curry. She's got that out of the freezer. Homemade curry. Lovely jubbly. My favourite. Right, I shall see you tomorrow. And it is now tomorrow, an autumnal Saturday morning. Been out in the garden, fed the squirrels, fed the tortoise. Trish and I have fed ourselves, so we're all good. I've had a letter from Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Nice to hear from you. She says she's been stressed recently, family problems, money problems. And on one of my many, many podcasts, She heard me talking about the woods. Now, you know me and the woods, don't you? I bang on about the woods. And apparently, after listening to this, Rachel went to the woods on her own, and she sat there with her back to a pine tree on the forest or the woods floor, and she just closed her eyes and she said, I was there for an hour and I felt rejuvenated. That's a good word. She said it actually works. I came home de-stressed. That's a good word as well. Calm, relaxed, positive attitude to sort things out. She said just an hour in the woods, and she's saying thank you so much for the idea, Ray. You're welcome. I'd like to go to the woods more. It's just that it's so far away. I don't like having to drive to the woods. This is the problem. Having to drive a couple of miles, okay, it's not far, but there's the traffic, the potholes in the roads. It just adds to stress and whatever. And of course, then you've got to drive home. You relax in the woods, then you've got to drive home. And there's idiots on the road. But anyway, that's great, Rachel. I'm glad it helped you. Other people should try it. I'm not talking about tree hugging, nothing weird like that. I'm not quite sure what these tree huggers are, what they do. Well, they hug trees, I suppose. Having said that, if it works for you, if hugging trees works for you, de-stresses you or whatever it does, great, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is just go and sit in the woods on your own and relax. I've decided not to make so many notes because I have bits of paper everywhere. Some of them are from last week. Some of them are from 2 weeks ago. I don't know what I've mentioned. I look at a note. It says here, Haven Street, Steam Railway, Isle of Wight. Now, that isn't ticked off, but I've mentioned that, haven't I? Have I? I don't know. It's now Saturday. I may have mentioned it a day or two ago. I can't remember. So I'm not going to make notes anymore. If I haven't mentioned it, rants.info. There's a railway video there. Dreadful camera work on my part. Dreadful camera work. It's awful. I must remember the next time I go to the Isle of Wight, try and keep the camera, or the phone rather, which I use as the camera, try and keep it steady. I'm waving around all over the place, probably because the train's rocking. Have you seen some of these awful videos, whether it be YouTube or TikTok or wherever? There's someone videoing something in the street. 1 minute you see the ground and their feet, then you see the sky, then they whip round and you see down that end of the road. Then it's the ground again, then they whip round and you see the other end of the road. I can't keep up with it. It sends me dizzy. I'm thinking, keep still, I can't cope with this. The camera, the phone is whizzing round all over the place. Looks awful. And then there's the old debate that we've been having recently. Should you hold your phone vertically or horizontally when you are videoing? I always do horizontal because I put my photos and videos onto my websites and onto YouTube. If you do it vertically, yes, as daughter number one has said, most people look at photos and videos on their phone. So do it vertically, it fits the phone. The trouble is with that, on a website, it looks awful. You've got this thin, narrow, vertical picture. I want the widescreen picture, so I hold the phone horizontally. I don't know, whatever. But you see this stuff on the telly. People have videoed on their phones on the telly. You've got a narrow vertical picture in the middle of the screen. Then either side it's all blurred stuff just to fill in the blank space. So there are different ways of looking at that. What are your thoughts on that? Are you a vertical or horizontal person? Now hang on, I better rephrase that. rants@protonmail.com. Do you like it horizontally or vertically? Let's move on swiftly. Jason, nice to hear from you. Jason is my age. And he says, I remember in my school days, hundreds, if not thousands of kids on bicycles in the mornings, all cycling to school. And then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, hundreds, if not thousands of kids on bicycles, all cycling home from school. Do you remember that? I do, Jason. I was one of them. Sometimes I'd walk, sometimes I'd use my bike. There were loads of us, and we'd block the road. From my house to the school was about 1.5 miles. And of course there was one main road from where I was. Once you get out onto that, it wasn't a big major road, but it was a very busy road. And it's just full of kids on bikes, riding 2 abreast, 3 abreast, 4 abreast. Cars couldn't get through. But it only lasted for about half an hour. It took me to cycle to school, 15 minutes? It lasted from sort of 8:30 till 9 o'clock. And that was it. Everyone's in school. Same with going home. We all left school. There were 600 boys in my school, and just about every one of them had a bike. Not all of them, of course. And going home time, there was this flow, this never-ending stream of bicycles leaving the school, across the main road, going down various directions and little roads and other. Oh, it was a nightmare for drivers, it must have been. So yes, I remember that, Jason. You don't see it now. They're all walking, aren't they? I call them ants. You know, if we have to go out around the roads when it's going to school time or leaving school time, I say to Trish that they're like ants. They're everywhere. They're crawling everywhere, these kids. That's not being derogatory to kids. They just remind me of ants. They're all over the place. Happy days, though, Jason, happy days. Of course, what we did, which wasn't a good idea, and we got moaned at in assembly just about every single morning by the headmaster, moan, 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 blah, blah, moan, moan, moan. Lovely to look forward to that every morning at school. Do not stop outside the girls' school, boys. Don't do that, please. You block the road, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, we took absolutely no notice at all. There was a crossroads. It wasn't actually outside the girls' school. It was a couple of 100 yards from the entrance to the girls' school where they came out. We were going home past the crossroads, and they were coming out into the crossroads, if you see what I mean. So we would hang around at the crossroads where they're all coming out. Some of them on their bikes, some of them walking. And of course, you know, we'd meet girls and we'd shout and whistle and stuff. Get arrested now. Said that before, haven't I? Get arrested if you whistle at someone. And of course, the locals complained to the boys' school, can you stop these boys all hanging around the crossroads, chatting up the girls? It blocks up the road. Blah, 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 blah. So every morning, the headmaster, don't hang around the crossroad, don't hang around the girls' school, blah, blah, moan, moan, moan. And we took no notice whatsoever. Excellent. As I speak, my son is at Heathrow Airport waiting to go back to America, which is good. It was nice to see him. It's a long way away, isn't it? 3,000 miles to the east coast. And of course, another 3,000 miles across America to the west coast. Stone the crows, that's a long way, isn't it? We were talking about trains. We were talking about Japanese trains. Because he's been there. He's been on the bullet train and all this stuff. I haven't. I've not been much further than the Isle of Wight. That's not strictly true. I have been to America in the past. California I went to. Anyway, the Japanese train, I saw this video on YouTube or wherever it was. On the platform, there's a barrier with sliding doors that open so you can't fall onto the track. The train comes into the station, stops at exactly the right place. The platform doors open, the train doors open, and you can get on and off the train. Everything is spotless. It's amazing. The conductor chap, he had white gloves on. There are people cleaning the trains all the time. Then when it's ready to go, the train doors close, the platform doors or gates, they close, and off the train goes. Silent, swift, and as my son was saying, dead on time. Everything has to be precise. It's exactly on time. Our trains here, with all due respect, well, it's not British Rail anymore. Stone the crows. I told you the one train I wanted in 10 years, first time in 10 years, cancelled. Your train is cancelled. What is the point? Bus, here we are, it's a story. Bus, sister-in-law and her husband and my mum-in-law. They got the bus home. They get to the crossing gates, the railway gates. The gates are broken. There are cars turning round. They can't open the gates, the car's turning round. The bus had to turn round, go back to where it had come from, go over a bridge over the railway line, then back to where it was going. Hopeless. Buses are late or cancelled or they all turn up at once. What's that saying? You don't see a bus for half an hour, then 3 turn up at once or something. I'm not blaming the bus drivers. How can they be on time? Right, I'm waiting at the bus stop. It should be here at 3:18 in the afternoon. I'm here at 3:18. There's no bus. Where is it? Well, it's obvious where it is. There's roadworks. There's potholes. There's traffic jams. There's gridlock. There's idiots on the road trying to drive cars and they don't know how to. How can the bus be at that particular stop at 3:18? The railway, of course, should be different, but what's happening now is a lot of the delays, apparently, allegedly, are people wandering on the track. Of course, if you've got someone wandering on the track, they have to stop all the trains. People have said, well, just run them anyway. If they get run over, it's their fault. They shouldn't be there. You can't really do that. Why are people wandering along the track? There's the live rail. Down here on the southern region, we don't have the overhead lines, the wires overhead. We have a third rail, 700 volts DC on that rail. You touch that, you're dead. Bzz, just like that. Bzz, how's it go? And of course, people wander about, so they have to turn the power off, which means the trains will stop. And then the trains are late, then they're in the wrong place, then they're cancelled, and so it goes on. And they're saying to people, use public transport. Don't use a car all the time. Use public transport. What public transport? There isn't any. Right, that's that rant over. Let's move on. Do you like the water sound? I rather like that as an intro. It's calm, isn't it? Not really conducive to ranting and raving about cars and buses and trains and things. But it is rather nice, I think. Perhaps we should have constant water noises. No, that wouldn't be good, would it? There's a thing on, is it Alexa or shush, mustn't mention that. Alexa. There's a thing on that. It's night sounds, and you can have forest sounds and birds singing or whatever to help you go to sleep. I used to use that quite a lot, and it worked well, actually. It was really good. Not too loud, obviously, just in the background, kind of forest sounds and nature sounds. It worked quite well. I must have a look at that again, get back into that, because I don't sleep too well, as I've probably mentioned in the past. Fiona, hello, nice to hear from you, Fiona. I think you're an old email-e, aren't you? That's someone that's emailed before. Email-e or emailer. Anyway, sorry, Fiona, I digressed. You say that you miss the hour-long podcast episodes on a Sunday. I know you do. A lot of people do. The trouble is, it started out with time. I had very little time. There was so much going on. And now I'm very aware, as I've said before, very aware of just rambling on about nothing, anything and everything and nothing, and boring people. No point if after half an hour you're thinking, oh, this is rubbish, and you turn off. But other people have said they just like to hear me rambling on while you're getting on with something in the kitchen or in the garden or wherever you are. You're going out for a walk in the forest. You're just listening to me talking. I always forget that word beginning with B. Oh, that's right, rubbish. Talking rubbish. So I'm going to try and make this episode a little bit longer by talking rubbish. This weekend I've got to strim the alleyway. That's the alleyway between our houses that goes, it's about 100 feet long, then it goes along the back of the houses. My next door neighbour normally does that. He goes out there with his strimmer and gets rid of all the weeds and bits and pieces. But he's got a bad knee at the moment, so I'm going to do it. So that's something to look forward to. The word strimmer, I believe, was used or invented, not invented, coined, is that the word? By Black & Decker. They made a strimmer, where the nylon string spins round and you sort of brush it along the ground and it chops weeds off. A strimmer. Now that is their word, and you can't go using it for other makes. You can't have Acme Company, for example, selling a strimmer because it's a copyright. Is it copyright or trademark? That's it. Trademark type word. It's quite a clever word, actually, strimmer. It comes from trimmer. So other companies have to use trimmer when they're advertising theirs. I just thought I'd throw that in because I'm talking rubbish. But no, seriously, I've got to sort out the alleyway a bit later because we've now got stinging nettles growing there. We have dandelions, which is lovely. Trish goes out there, collects the dandelion leaves and the flowers for, guess who? No, not me, Gary the tortoise, which is nice. He loves all that. He loves plantain, and the alleyway is full of that. So before I strim it later, we'll go out there and collect all the bits and pieces. And she keeps his food in a fridge. We've got a Gary fridge. How many people have a fridge for their tortoise food? Actually, there are drinks in there as well, Coke and beer and wine and stuff like that. But we've got Gary's food in the fridge. I was talking about autumnal. It is autumnal because his heater now is coming on at night. It's going down. What is it? He mustn't go below 14 degrees, or I can't remember. But his heater has started to come on at night. Only a couple of times. So we are getting to the end of the summer. But I don't mind. Winter can be lovely. I do like the 4 seasons. Now, in some countries, you don't have that. It's like summer all year round, or winter all year round. Norway is winter all year round, isn't it? Top of Finland, top of Norway, Sweden up there is winter all year round, isn't it? Australia, mind you, in Australia, it's not summer all year round, is it really? Well, it is compared to, I suppose, to Britain, because as I've said before, winter in Australia is more or less like our summer here, so sort of summer all round. But it is lovely having the seasons. Autumn is nice, or the fall, as you call it in America. The leaves all turning golden brown, and then we've got I don't like the actual winter itself, but then the spring, that's when the daffodils start popping up from the ground. Their little heads pop up and they look around. Hello, the sun's coming up. Let's go, lads. Let's start growing. Buds on trees and bushes and things. I don't know why the winter seems so long. It seems to drag on. You know, we get perhaps 3 months of summer if you're lucky, really lucky, and then 9 months of winter. Well, not quite 9 months of winter. How about living up in Shetland? Who's up there? Is it Ian? Ian, are you up in Shetland? Is it Ian? Haven't heard from you for a while. Whenever I look at the weather forecast on the telly, down here in the south it's 23, 24 degrees. Up in Shetland, 14 degrees, 13 degrees. It's 10 degrees lower than us. Don't you mind that up there? Anyone in Shetland, don't you mind that? The Outer Hebrides. It's cold there, isn't it? Not like winter cold all the time, but in the summer, when we're 24, 25, you're 10 degrees less than us. I don't know that I'd like that. And it gets darker, doesn't it? Earlier in the winter, gets light later in the mornings. But I suppose if that's where you live, if that's where you're born, say Iceland must be awful. With all due respect to the Icelanders, I'd like to go to Reykjavik, have a look. But isn't it cold? Isn't it cold there all the time? Don't you sort of have summer in Iceland? Anyone in Iceland listening to the podcast? Come on, there must be someone up there. You've got internet, haven't you? Iceland, let's hear from someone. And as for Greenland, why it's called Greenland, I don't know. It should be called White Land because it's covered in snow all the time. Or is it? Anyone in Greenland listening? Do you have summer? Do you have actually green grass and trees and bushes and things? I don't know. I really am talking rubbish now. You wanted it. All you people saying to me, we want an hour-long episode. We just want to listen to you talking. Doesn't matter what it's about. Well, here I am talking. Dear me. It's a funny old thing, isn't it? Look at that blue sky now. Lovely blue sky. In fact, 1 or 2 leaves on the cherry tree. This is not good. They are turning brown. Oh, I can see at least half a dozen. It's only August. What's the date? 23rd. You'll be listening to this tomorrow, 24th. We're not even at the end of August yet. How come the leaves are turning brown? We don't have winters here like we used to when I was a lad. Snow and ice. Milk bottle outside, the milk bottles delivered in the morning. It's frozen. It's frozen solid, the milk, if it's been out there for a while. If the milkman's early, they start about 4 in the morning, don't they? Put your milk on the doorstep. By the time you go to get it at, say, 7, it's frozen solid. And it's pushed the silver top, it's pushed that off, and sticking out the top of the bottle is the cream. So, of course, birds, particularly robins, they go down and start pecking at the ice cream. Yeah, ice cream, there we are, they have ice cream for breakfast. We don't have that sort of thing anymore. We don't have the ice and the snow like we used to. I won't go into climate change, of course, for obvious reasons, because there's all different thoughts about it and people argue about it, and I really don't know what's causing it, apart from the world has had climate changes for thousands of billions of years. Obviously, we're not helping. I don't know. Let's not worry about climate change. Right, what else can we talk about? We're coming up to 50 minutes. I'm determined to do the hour just to keep certain people happy who keep on at me. Why don't you do an hour? You used to do an hour. The new computer I'm using now, it's all up and running nicely, which is good. Thanks to North Carolina son and all his hours of work he spent here doing that. That's good. Who would have thought, when I was a boy, who would have thought that I'd be chatting into a microphone and I've got a computer, a keyboard, a screen, a mouse and all this stuff, an audio mixer, and people all around the world can listen to what I'm saying. If someone had said that's going to happen, I would have immediately thought radio station. A radio station, though, that can be heard all around the world, Australia, South America, wherever, anywhere in the world. Perfect reception. What sort of transmitter would you have to have for that? Amazing. But here I am doing it. This is where you have to, what's that awful expression? Think outside the box. I'm never quite sure what that means. And what's the other one? Lateral thinking. Never quite understood that. Mind you, there's a lot I don't understand. I've never really understood what a rhetorical question is. Is that a question that doesn't need answering? Let me know, someone. Raise rants at protonmail.com. But here I am talking to you. You're listening to me in America, Australia, Spain, all over the place. Not Reykjavik, though. No one in Iceland bothers. Come on, you Icelanders. Get your earphones on or whatever you do and have a listen. And then type to me. Type a message to me. Then we can give a shout out to Reykjavik. But isn't technology amazing? No aerials, no radio, no transmitter, just internet. Fantastic. Absolutely amazing, really, what's happened. And only in the last, well, let me see, how long have I been on the internet? 25 years I've been on the internet. I expect some of you have been on a bit longer than that. And of course now we can't do without it. It's like mobile phones. You can't do without a mobile phone because you need to pay for things and car parking. You don't put coins in the machine anymore. You get your mobile phone out with an app. And I know that quite a few elderly people don't like that. I must admit, I don't have that on my phone. Tricia does. If we have to park anywhere, she gets her phone out. I can't do all this app stuff. I'd rather stick £0.50 in the machine and get 1 and 6pence halfpenny change to park there for all day. 1 and 6pence halfpenny. Who remembers the old coins? I've got a threepenny piece. I've got a sixpence. And I've got some old pennies, I believe. Not a lot of stuff, but I've just kept 1 or 2. Why? I have no idea why. Why do people keep things? I used to have loads of 1940s radios in the loft, up in the attic there. What is the point? One day I said to Trish, I don't look at them. I don't use them. They're up in the loft. The day will come when we say, well, we better get rid of that lot. They've been up there 500 years. Or when I pass on to some other world, wherever that is, people will be saying, well, what do we do with all these old radios? Take them up the tip, I suppose. So what's the point? Anyway, we got rid of them. I've kept 1 or 2, and of course in here I've got loads of radios, but I use these. But I don't see the point in owning anything antique if it's hidden away. Unless it's an investment, I suppose, if it's a £500 million diamond that you've got locked in a bank vault somewhere. I suppose that would be an investment, wouldn't it? That's your pension for when you get old. So what happens if you're old now? Well, you better cash your diamond in. Just had a message from the post office. They're delivering my gutter hooks today. What are gutter hooks, you're asking? You can hang Christmas tree lights. You know the rainwater gutter goes round the bottom of the roof? Well, you put these gutter hooks on and then you can, they're like S-shaped things, and you hang Christmas tree lights, or not tree lights, along the hooks. I'm going to use them for something else. Guess what? An aerial. I'm going to run an aerial wire out of the window here, then under the gutter, all the way round, down the side of the house, then down the back garden. Why am I telling you this? To just eat up time, to get to an hour. No, seriously, in the old days, they had wires outside the houses. They would have a metal rod sticking out from the brickwork and a white porcelain or china insulator in that, and a wire. And you very often see in old photographs, if you look carefully, closely, you see these things on houses. They go round about a foot away from the house. They're quite long, these metal rods. And they've got this wire going through the insulators all the way around the house. And they are aerials. There's an aerial for your radio. Sorry, your wireless, as you had back in the old days. And one of the houses we had, it actually had the metal rods all rusty and the porcelain insulator on the end with a hole in it for the wire. The wire wasn't there. And, you know, I left them there. I don't like removing things like that. You might think, well, that's going to look silly, isn't it? No, it's history. It's part of the house, isn't it? The house has history, and I think it should be left. It's like people ripping out fireplaces. You buy a house, it's over 100 years old. So what do? Well, not you, but what do some people do? Tear out the fireplace. It's been there over 100 years. That's sacrilege, isn't it? And they go all modern. There's no fireplace at all. There's some electric thing there or some TV type screen with flames on it. Have you ever seen that? Doesn't it look absolutely... So I bet you've got one. You're saying, well, I'm happy with ours. I think they look ridiculous. You've got a fireplace. Well, sometimes it's not even a fireplace. It's just on the wall. And it's basically a computer monitor, TV screen. And there's logs or coal on fire. It's just a video, a sort of loop, I suppose, video of logs on fire. I've seen them and I've looked and I've thought, what is that? It doesn't look anything like a fire, a real fire. We have a real fire, as you know. And my son the other day, he said, is that where you light the fire in the winter? He said, I can see soot up the chimney there. I said, yep, the chimney's been cleaned, but all ready to light the fire come the winter. Can you imagine sticking a TV screen in our fireplace? I mean, how stupid does that look? I'm going to get emails now, aren't I? Messages, oh, we've got one, we like it. Just because you don't like it, moan, 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 blah, blah, blah. I don't like ripping out fireplaces. OK, don't have a coal fire or a wood fire if you don't want to, but don't tear the entire fireplace out. People did that years ago. Rip out the fireplace, moved into this house, right, rip out the fireplace. Years later, people were saying, do you know, we ought to put the fireplace back. They did, they all put them back. They ripped them all out. Decades later, we could do with a fireplace there. Wouldn't that look nice? Be original, wouldn't it? Part of the original house. I mean, they're mad, aren't they? We kept our wooden front door. I told you that, didn't I? Our niece, she wanted it. If you change that front door, she said, if you're having double glazed front door, I'll have the old one. It's over 100 years old. And her saying that, I looked at Trish. Trish looked at me and we said, we're keeping that front door. We're not taking that off. Not going to change that oak front door for some plastic rubbish. That was funny. If it's an old house, I like keeping it original. Obviously, we don't have gas lighting. We do have electricity in the house. Having said that, there are, above where I am now, above the ceiling in the loft, there are thin steel pipes, and they went to the gas lighting. They came down into each room where there was a gas light on the wall or a centre light, which was gas. They're very thin, like iron pipes, and I've left them where they are in the loft because I don't want to rip those out. That's just a reminder that many, many years ago, I would have been sitting here. Well, I wasn't here. But if I was here, at night I'd turn the gas lights on. Then, of course, the electricity came along, didn't it? And the rest is history. People say what goes round comes round. Fashion, things like that, comes round again, doesn't it? Keeps going round and round over the decades. What has never come back? Bench seats in the car. You know, the big bench seat. I just love that. I really miss that. I know I'm always on about it, but I do miss the bench seat. It was lovely. And the wooden trim, the wooden dashboard, wood trim on the doors. Why don't they do that anymore? Even if they made wood out of plastic. We can't make wood out of plastic, you know what I mean? Imitation wood, which is plastic. Have you seen these awful garden chairs and tables? It's plastic made to look like wood. I don't know, I don't like them. I suppose I'm just old-fashioned. I was going to say an old something then, but I better not swear. I like original wooden tables. I know they need treating and looking after, but these plastic things, well, they look plastic. Yes, they're easy to clean, they don't rot, etc., blah, 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 but they just don't look right to me. Everything's plastic. I don't suppose we'll ever have wood trim in cars again. They can't do that, can they? They can't be bothered with that. They're too busy with their grey, boring, injection moulded plastic dashboards. Right, that's that. What else can I moan about? We've got 2 minutes left. What else can I moan about? Have you been good? If you're bad, don't get caught. If you go scrumping, now is the time of year to go scrumping. We are being given apples and pears, which is nice. I don't know about cherries. We've got a cherry tree in the front garden, but it's not a kind of cherry tree. Well, it is, but we don't get cherries. Why is that? We've got a fig tree, loads of figs on it, but you can't eat them. They're not edible figs. Perhaps they would be if the fig tree was down in the Mediterranean sunshine somewhere. I don't know. I am going to end it here. It says here, look, 59.35. So we're coming up to 60 minutes. There we are. You asked for it. You wanted me to bore you to bits. So you've been bored to bits. It's been great talking to you as always. I really must go and get on. I've just had another email. My gutter hooks are on the way, so I've got to get my wire ready, find a ladder and things like that. Look after yourselves, take care, be good if you're not, if you're bad, don't get caught and all that stuff. And I will see you on Wednesday. There we are, look, 1 hour, 2 seconds. Haven't seen that for a long, long time, have we? Thanks for listening, those of you that are still left. I expect half of you have gone to sleep or gone down the pub. Take care. Bye-bye for now.